Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 9th of August, year 2023. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. And let me welcome our panel. We have Kelly here. Kelly and Kelly. Good evening, Kelly. Kelly is a Qigong teacher and actually is going into, has been a spiritual teacher as well. And Kelly, her partner, is also a Qigong teacher. They have like about 30 decades of Qigong teaching between themselves. And let me welcome Patricia as well, who is part of a core group of meditators. And Sri Lakshmi and David have joined us online. Good evening, everyone. So Kelly, I'll start off with the question, but it comes from...
Good evening.
Good evening, Sri Lakshmi. Let me see. So this person fell on ice in their early 20s, and that MRI showed lumbar 4 and 5 were fusing, no medical advice. In their 60s, they fell and injured both back, both knees and right hand. So they're asking what in their past, constant back pain since the 20s, approximately 2 to 3 times a year of agonizing pain, usually for a week, sometimes up to 2 weeks until now when it's many weeks and days. So they're asking what in their past life could have caused all this.
Let's start off with an easy question. Oh boy, I don't know.
You started with the Lionsgate portal, so the portal opened and now the wisdom has to rise.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, it's harder for me, like if I haven't connected with the person, I don't really know what could have happened in their past life. They might have been injured, or they could have been, stabbed or fallen on, or something like that. There could have been something that happened a long time ago. I guess for me, I always like to start with someone like what's happening in the present. So within this life, that if you got injured, like maybe, because I know I've had injuries where I didn't receive good medical care at the time. And then I kept being told like, well, it's nothing, it's fine, until it gets worse and worse and worse. And then you can't ignore it anymore. And then I just would have to keep trying to find people that could help me physically move through the physical pain. So whatever kind of therapy that might look for them, sometimes chiropractic works for people, sometimes massage, sometimes it's osteopathy. There could be a lot of different things. So I would encourage that person to explore anything medical too that could help them, or any kind of other natural things. Like there's so much sort of within the medical realm, other than just physicians, for example, that you can go see, like different kinds of practitioners. That's the word I'm looking for. So there's a lot of different practitioners. Back pain often can be, there's a couple of ways to kind of look at the back, depending on, well, if it's the lumbar. So sometimes it's something from our past. So it's important to look at not only the physical injury, but also what was your emotional state at the time that you had the injury. So maybe there was something going on in your life that was stressful, and that's how the emotional stress chose to manifest itself, was through this physical injury. And then sometimes that emotional stress can be exacerbated by the physical, the thing that's happening, because then we're focusing so much on the physical pain that we're not focusing on maybe where we were emotionally at the time. So that's one thing that I would encourage people to do, is if you have especially a long standing injury to look into the like, or just to ask yourself, well, where was I at that point in my life? You know, who are the friends I had? Just kind of do some reflection on where you were at that point in time. And then also look at if there's a pattern. So when that injury would flare up again, is there something happening in your life emotionally at that time that's triggering that old space? So it might not be exactly the same, but you oftentimes you can find that there's a pattern that, well, this stress was happening in my life, then, oh, in my 30s, and it flared up again, I had this stress, but it's not quite the same scenario, but it's a similar stress on the physical body or on our emotions. And then if it's flared up again right now in the present for someone, to ask yourself, well, what am I going through? Or am I trying? Because sometimes it's what we're going through, but sometimes it's our body's way of trying to get us to focus on what we've been holding on to, and then to be able to acknowledge it, to let it go. So there's a few layers to that. I'm kind of hoping that, you know, Kelly comes to and April comes to. I was like, whoa, this is a big question to start with. So sometimes, and it could also be that if you have a past life memory come up, that it's an injury that's happened before too. Like if you have memories that you're not quite sure where those images come from, it could be from, you know, a parallel life or another time. So there's a lot of layers, I feel, to physical injuries, because I always feel it's so important to ask ourselves, you know, when I had that injury, what was I happening in my life at the time? What, you know, maybe you had a breakup with someone and there was that kind of pain of breaking up or heartbreak, or you might have had pneumonia and you weren't feeling very well. So you could have had also another physical ailment on top of that. And they're all interconnected, and they can all mean different things. So sometimes with our back, it's like something from the past that we're trying to bring forward to heal it in the present. So it's important to look at it physically, but also emotionally. And, you know, if there's anything you're hanging on to. And then I forget which, because a friend of mine, because it's also, the back can also represent the future, and it's a different modality, and I can't remember what it's called, but your back can actually represent your future. So you might even be afraid of moving forward into a future space, and you're holding yourself back. So it's sort of a little bit of the reverse there. So it could be a lot of different things without having more details than that. It's kind of a broad way of talking about it.
Thank you so much, Kelly. You are always incredibly amazing. Thank you so much for all your wisdom. Grateful for it. And I loved your Lionsgate activation as well. I couldn't watch, I mean, I stayed until April's meditation started. And by the time she got to the throat chakra, I had to like go back to work. So I need to replay it again so that I get the full effect, like start to finish.
Well, thank you.
It was quite powerful because I had some good news come through right after that activation. I'll let y'all know. I'll share the good news like in a few weeks if it does transpire. One of the things that came to my mind is back is like support, right?
Yeah.
Like it's supporting the body. So do you think it's like this person is actually at that point in time, they're feeling not supported?
Yeah, that's a possibility, that they're not feeling supported. I know there's a lot of other texts that will talk about like the low back, like around the sacrum and just above, that has to do with money and security, financial security. So, I mean, in our 20s, right, we're trying to figure things out, and don't feel financially stable, or there's some fear, and throughout our life that fear can be triggered from different things. And it could be something that in that area that needs to clear. There's also because your root chakra and your sacral chakra, it have a lot to do with your family. So it could be family ties. It could be, there could be a few things like that. So it could be in some way, it would be up to that person to sort of figure out, well, in what way did I not feel loved or supported? Or, did I not feel like I was strong or something? Because I know different parts of the back off the top of my head. I'm trying to pull forward my knowledge on what that, because I do know that there's different parts of the back, like the lower back, mid back, and then higher
Right.
up. They all have a few different things, but I know that in particular, and the lower back for me stands out because that's something that my lower back would always hurt. I had a back injury when I was in gymnastics. So but that was also had a lot to do with financial concerns and just things that my parents were going through. So there's a lot that I was holding on with that. So that one I know because I've had to work through myself. So I don't know if that's, something for this person, but different parts of the back can also, indicate different things.
And the other part, thank you so much for that. And then the other part that came to my mind was if they fell, right? A fall is a loss of the present moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So and if a fall caused these many damages, what I feel is there was a sign. They're missing a sign. There were signs before this. Suddenly, you don't end up having 4 injuries, the complicated injuries, right? Complex injuries. I'm positive the universe sent this person signs of wake up, you're not doing this correctly. Wake up, you're not doing this correctly. And then finally, boom, the universe had to wake them up, like shake, like I feel that's when you get the financial loss or the health loss, is when the universe really wants to hold you by the shoulder and shake you very hard, right? So do you think that is operating in this condition?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it can be different for every person. I mean, I know there's a lot of times where I've ignored I've ignored the little signs, and then you get like the frying pan over the head kind of thing, where you're like, "Oh, I have not been paying attention." And yeah, falling down can be just that one split second, right? Where we don't see or feel that, it could be like we stepped on a little rock or something and twisted our ankle, or we fall down, and that can happen when it's just that one moment where we're not fully present in what we're doing, because maybe our mind wandered to a perceived problem that we had, or it was thinking about what we're going to make for dinner, and we were projecting into the future rather
Right.
than being present with ourselves. So yeah, like I said, there could be a lot of different things when it comes to especially physical injuries, because there's so much within our physical body that we have to take care of the physical part, and then there's also the emotional part. And sometimes we focus on rehabilitating ourselves physically and doing what we can there, but then we forget about, well, what was I feeling? What was I thinking at the time? Where did my mind go when I fell? And that might be an important thing for the person to ask themselves is, okay, when I fell, where did my mind go? Do I remember what I was thinking? Because that's a shock, right? Because then you fall and it's a shock back into the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those shocks back into the present moment are really, they shake us up.
Yeah, wake us up. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I think Eckhart gives the example of Christopher Reeves, Superman, that Christopher Reeves himself said that when he became a paraplegic, that when he fell off the horse, he said that was one loss of the present moment. Like you can lose your present moment and you can actually get paralyzed in that manner where you're wheelchair bound.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So Christopher Reeves had actually fessed up to losing the present moment. So that's why, and I feel, especially with the women being, we have osteoporosis as we age. I feel like by the time you hit your 50s, in your late 40s and 50s, you have to start doing strength training, right? Some form of strength training has to happen, because these kind of things will happen, that will fall. And then as you're aging, then if you have multiple things going on, slow down. You don't have to do things as though you were 20, right?
Yeah, I know, but the way I trained when I was 20 is not the way that I train now. But I
Exactly.
still like, I do strength training along with qigong and
Right.
resistance training, because our muscles are actually so important for not only just our physical health, but also for our emotional health and
Mhm.
for doing light work. That's the other thing, because
Mhm.
of the way the fascia intertwines with everything. It's like your own personal antenna array, if you will, to bring in energy and to be able to hold energy. So actually, this is why Kelly and I teach qigong,
Mhm.
because that will help with that, and massaging the organs and helping to physically detox, among all the other things that you can do. But it also helps to build strength and flexibility within the joints, and that is very important when you're doing your emotional work, your spiritual work, whatever you want to call it, because having a strong body also makes us feel good about ourselves.
Mhm.
Then sometimes, for myself, with some of my injuries that were not diagnosed for a long time, and I thought, oh, well, I didn't realize how many things I started to give up that I really enjoyed doing, and told myself, well, that's okay. It's fine. But it really wasn't fine to me. And so when I addressed those issues emotionally and physically, and then when I started to be able to train again, it feels so good to be able to do not only Qigong and Bagua, but to do strength training again and resistance training, because when you just feel strong in your body, you feel good. It gets those happy hormones going, all the chemical things going in your body that are really good. And you want to be healthier,
Mhm.
right? I always feel like when I exercise, it makes me want to feel health. It makes me feel healthier. I want to eat healthier, and I want to keep all that momentum going. So
Beautiful.
if we ever have to give things up, we should always ask ourselves, why do I have to give stuff up? Is it necessary, or can I modify it, or
Mhm.
what's happening right now?
That was a sign from the universe that was ignored when you started to give up, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
That's
for sure.
that's a sign.
Yeah, when I started to give up things, that was the sign. And then I had another spiritual teacher at the time that I was working with who said, you're holding on to some pain. And we didn't know if it was just physical or just emotional or what would happen. And then I had to admit that I'm in pain all the time, but I ignore it. I just ignored it because it became so normal. But now that I'm not in that pain anymore, I'm like, oh, that never had to be normal. But I tried to convince myself that it was normal.
It's
We
normal. Mhm.
we do that all the time, where we try to convince ourselves that things are normal when they really don't have to be.
And that's what, like, where she's saying she's since the 20s, she's had back pain 2 or 3 times a year, agonizing pain. That's an ignoring of a problem, right? You have to listen, pay attention to why the pain occurred. When you brought up the muscular development is necessary, Kelly, I got reminded of, we do this Ring of Crystal meditation, and during the Ring of Crystal meditation, Dr. Norm Shealy, right before the meditation, he trains us. He says, your muscles, tendons, and intestines are actually crystalline. They have piezoelectric effect. So the more pressure, every time I work out, right, I feel, oh, I'm actually causing my muscles to have that piezoelectric effect. So it's actually generating a electromagnetic field, like when we work out. And that's why I feel maybe that's why people who work out, they have those endorphins, right?
Mhm.
Because of that piezoelectric effect. So that's one incentive if anybody wants to use it as an incentive. So grateful
Yeah,
for your input, Kelly. Thank
yeah.
you. This was
I would,
beautiful.
if I can add one more thing, I apologize for keeping other people from speaking, but I just noticed too, reading what they said is that they've injured like their hand and their knee. Sometimes those other like subsequent injuries can be from the fact that your nervous system is getting really tired from having the other injury not addressed. So then it becomes easier to injure something else because everything is connected. So that would be something that that I would really encourage the person to go to. Like I started to going for osteopathy, and I hadn't done that before, but I found a friend recommended this person because I like a good recommendation. And I was surprised at how much deeper physically I could release the tissue and stuff. And I went, wow, okay. So I just encourage that person to, whether it's a physiotherapist or whatever, they feel would work for them in whatever state they're in the present, to go consult with someone, because you'll often find that injuries that you have that you're like, oh, well, I think it's this, but it's actually something else that's causing. So your pain is a symptom, just like our emotional pain is a symptom. Our physical pain is also a symptom of something that hasn't been addressed. So you may have pain in one area of your body, but it's actually radiating from somewhere else and hurting you. So
Beautiful.
thank you very much for letting me say that.
Thank you. Thank you. Grateful for it. Patricia, did you want to add to what Kelly has to say? Thank you.
Thank you. Just thinking what to say, because I had similar injury. So it's always some kind of back pain. For me, it's more of a middle back. But I think we discussed it a few months back. I know that Kelly's partner, Kelly, was talking about that there's no such thing really as physical injury. It's really, all of it is information. So in other words, because of my psychological load, that accident happened. It's not that accident happened out of the blue and then I'm left with that pain and I'm trying to just heal it. So another physical body is just following whatever spiritual path we are on, and it's just the information. So the question, what in my past life could have caused it? Think to answer that question, the questionnaire, I would suggest do the past life imagery by Dr. Norm Shirley, right? From because I did it, because I wanted to try, because he actually said that out of all meditations when he was doing his psychotherapy sessions with his patients, he said that this one was the most important, most information came through. And he actually talks about example of someone, a lady being paralyzed on the wheelchair and this whole thing. So yeah, we can't actually answer that. I don't think the answer has to come through that meditation to the questionnaire, because yeah, we have book by Louise Hay, right, about certain symptoms of in the body, what can lower back be, what the middle, what the top. So there is certain beliefs that over time can cause. But I'm not sure about the sudden accidents. I guess that applies too, right? Because like Kelly said, it's like the information is being ignored. So it's being stronger and strong, and finally comes to like a shocking, like ta-da, that you can't ignore anymore. So, and 20s, yeah, it has, maybe it's something from the past life, because 20s is very, very young. I had first time I fell on ice and had a little concussion was, I think it was like 17 or 18. I actually lost my consciousness for a second, and just like boom, and then I opened my eyes like, oh my gosh. I wasn't careful. I lost my present moment. I decided to go on the frozen pond that I normally would ice skate, but this time I was just walking. It's like, oh, I don't have my ice skate. Let's just go on the ice, knowing that it's so dangerous on shoes to go on the ice because you can just lose your footing. It's very hard to control. So you have to be super, super present to actually walk on ice in your shoes. So I kind of daredevil myself, I guess. And then sure enough, it caused some little concussion. Did you find the lumber? Go ahead, Poonam.
The back pain, lower back is fear of money, lack of financial support. That's what Kelly said, which is correct. Middle back is guilt, stuck in all that stuff back there. Get off my back. Upper back is lack of emotional support, feeling unloved, holding back love.
Yeah,
So
I do have a lot of, yeah, also like, especially my right side. Well, I'm sorry, my left side. So even yesterday during the light
landscape.
skate activation, I was actually touching my top to see if I can get the information from there. So I'm still waiting for, but again, it's a very individual journey. I mean, each one of us has answers, but they're general, or we can just tell about our experience, but the information will come through to the person by doing those meditations.
So yours is upper back. So that's the lack of emotional support, feeling unloved, holding back love. Are you holding back love?
Well, thanks to the more and more opening of my heart with Dr. Joe, actually showing up more. So it's not as bad, but it used to be pretty bad. So
Perfect.
and middle back a lot, but lower too. I mean, yeah, back was maybe not knees. Knees were okay. Never had too many knees problems, and hands are fine too. But maybe caught it in time and started to do yoga, do qigong, bike riding, swimming. So yes, the endorphins, I actually like it so much. And yeah, there's special like hormones, certain hormones produced with even walking, just so. And a lot of teachers, even like business coach and stuff, it's like, do first, do something physically. And I know Kelly's partner, Kelly too, is like always do physical stuff, because you can release a lot of it by just going for a walk. So
but if they're in pain and their pain is so debilitating that they cannot even
how
move,
you're gonna
then
go, right?
they
But
won't be able to.
I'm saying before it gets to that point that you can't walk, just do something, so it doesn't get to the point that it's so bad. Yeah, but afterwards, I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza healed his own injury, but he is a superhuman.
Kelly wanted to say something.
I'm gonna say everyone can do that too. Everyone, you're all superhuman. You can all do it. And when we were talking just now, I just reminded me that about, because we think if we believe our pain is debilitating, or it could be because it got to that point, and we want to do less and less things because we're in pain and we don't want to move. But movement is the best thing you can do because it gets the blood going. It gets your lymph fluid going. It gets your joints moving, because your joints, if you don't move, that's why your joints get stiff, is because you don't move. And they're not like your muscles, or because your joints don't have, okay, if I'm quoting this correctly, but it's not quite, they don't have the same blood supply that your muscles do or your organs, because they're attached. So the fluid inside of your joints, like that's why it's so important to move, is to keep them lubricated. So that's why moving is so important. So if you find yourself doing less and less and less, find a therapist or somebody who can give you easy things to do at first and
Walk
then make
yourself
a
up.
habit, yeah, to do it consistently, because movement is very healing.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kelly. Anything else, Patricia?
No, thank you. I don't have too much. I know that Kelly covered a lot this part, so thank you for that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. Grateful. Amazing. So one of the things that I wanted to say that Carolyn Mays during this, I don't know if she's talked about it during this Science of Medical Intuition course, or when she was talking on the coursework for the anatomy of our health. She said lower back, when people have lower back pain, right? She said that person has the belief that they've been stabbed in the back. Right? Or so when we have this limiting belief that we're going to be cheated on, we're going to be betrayed. You know, Anthony William has that betrayal, right? He put betrayal on his stone. So when we feel that we have broken trust, when we feel that way, then we have lower back pain. So anybody suffering from lower back pain, y'all can look at your beliefs and see how much do you believe, how much do you trust the universe. And I think today's tip of the day was that you have to trust the unknown. You have to develop this deep relationship with your inner being and with your connection to source, that you're trusting the unknown. And however life is flowing, just let it flow the way it is flowing. So yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. No, it wasn't yesterday. It was on Monday, because I had my meeting at 7 p.m. So on Monday, I had an issue with my air conditioner. This is a new house, so we just have it under warranty. But the air conditioner supposedly has to drain within a bathroom inside the house, and it was not draining. It was draining outside. The condensation was going outside, and in Texas, like the air conditioner runs all day, right? So there was a lot of water outside. So you schedule a person, right? They say I'll come 12 to 5, and they'll come within that window. Well, I didn't hear from them until 4 p.m. So I called the company, and they said, oh, he must be stuck on, the technician is not answering. He must be stuck on another job, right? So I was like, okay, fine. And my air conditioner had actually stopped working the day before, like it wouldn't cool down as well. So I knew there was a freon issue, leave alone this condensation issue. And so I went, okay, I'll let it go. And then by 5:30 or 6, I just took one of Dr. Norm Shady's meditations, and the guided imagery for feeling the body. I started that meditation, and I was like, I'm just going to do my meditation. I'm going to get ready for my meeting at 7. So I started doing the meditation, and here comes the doorbell ring, and they show up. And they were like the most sweetest people on the face of this earth. Now, just imagine if I had started a story of, I can't believe I'm paying so much. You know how the insanity of the myth of normal, as Gabor Mate says, the myth of normal, our normal reaction would be, I can't believe I'm paying so much money. I'm doing all this, and they're not showing up. They said 12 to 5, you know, the normal, these contractors cannot be trusted. All that comes through, right, with a normal human being. And I just say, flow with the universe. Yeah, they said they'll show up. I said, if they show up after 5, when they show up after 5, yeah, they may show up after 5. I was like, okay, it's 5:30. Now I can go in my meditation. They may not show up. They may show up tomorrow. So I'm going to go in my meditation. So and the AC was working kind of like, I knew that it kind of worked. I could drop it down to the lowest temperature, and it would, at least whatever Freon was left, it was cooling the house enough that we were comfortable. So I was like, okay, they'd come tomorrow, but no, these sweetest people showed up. So this is how much y'all have to trust the universe, that the right people will. Just imagine if I would have gone into a reaction, those two angels wouldn't have shown up. They took care of everything with the condensation. When I told them about the Freon, they went outside, they hosed down my air conditioner completely, like cleaned the air conditioner as though it was their own air conditioner. And then they put in Freon, and then they left. And I was like, oh my God, what angels, right? But I know it's because of the teaching of Eckhart saying surrender, and Dr. Joe constantly saying there has to be a balance between intention and surrender. You know, in Center of Magnet, he always says, balance it between intention and surrender, balance between their intention and surrender. So you're always surrendered to what is. You're not yelling and screaming. So wanted to give everyone that example since it recently happened on Monday. With that, I'll go to Francesca. Francesca, do you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Oh, good. I'm always checking if my sound is still working. I think definitely what everybody has shared so far is correct in relation to, you know, the issues when it comes to pain in our back and just injury in general. It's something I've been working on heavily in the last 20 months or so. And you know, when I hear or just from knowing myself, when I think of, you know, back, you know, for myself, upper back, I'm carrying literally the world on my shoulders. And thanks to this Lionsgate portal, I received the gift finally of putting that weight down this morning, like at around 3 a.m. So now I'm working on resetting my nervous system and all of those other beautiful things as a way of healing my body. Now, in relation to your fall, like Poonam mentioned, definitely it sounds like you weren't being present. You know, you were distracted by something. The mind must have been preoccupied, right? Because even for myself, generally, without injury, to even walk on ice, I need to focus, concentrate, right? And so, you know, it's definitely, for me, when I look at, you know, injury, let's say I fell on ice or something happened to me, that's to me is a sign. It's a wake-up call from the universe saying, hey, there's something that you need to do, you know, other than like wake up, be present, you know. So whatever it is at that age was preoccupying your mind, whatever habitual pattern of thoughts and feelings you were running, when that happens, I highly recommend, you know, going back into that memory and examining, you know, if you can remember, what is it that you might have been experiencing during that time in your life, right? Because again, our you know, mind develop habits, right? And the habits tend to keep us distracted or drifting away from, you know, the present moment, from the things that we're supposed to. And of course, it never tells us, without self-examination and asking the right questions, it never tells us, you know, that, okay, yeah, you know, this is what you're supposed to do. It's a journey, you know, within, as we know. So I highly recommend, if you could go back into the memory. I don't believe you need to go into the past life. That's just my belief. I believe the answer that you seek will show itself to you here in the present moment, in the now, if you ask the right questions. And you know, even, you know, when you do that examination, look at what stories your mind is playing, right? As you do that self-examination, I think Patricia and Kelly mentioned both about, you know, the importance of exercise. Diet is also extremely important. And for us, we weren't taught in schools or anywhere to build that relationship between the food that we eat and our physical body. and how to honor a physical body and so forth, right? So again, this is telling me that you have quite a bit of work to do in relation to getting in touch with your physical body, listening to it, having conversations with it, right? Movement, right? I know, at 60 years old, it would be extremely hard, especially when you have physical pain. My God, I'm 50, almost 50, and maybe about 8 months ago, I couldn't move anything. Pretty much everything I moved, I was, in excruciating pain, right? And diet and exercise made a significant difference. Actually, it was our group here, Poonam, and the Anthony Williams protocol, parts of it that I started doing, and just a combination of things, a little bit of help, from April, who did a scan, and it was, a combination again of help. So you're doing the right thing by reaching out and asking the question, and the answer that's, the wisdom that's coming forth to me is to, advise you or share with you that the importance of building that relationship with your physical body, looking at the stories that's arising as you're building that relationship. Are you in the victim consciousness state of mind, for example? That's, one of the most debilitating habits, especially for us women, right? Oh my God, I almost want to say a bad word there, but I'm not going to say it, it's one of our most debilitating state of mind, or state of consciousness, because we would say, for me, I have to do a lot of work on my mind to even start the physical exercise, right? To do my physical exercises. And it involved being with a group of people and having, two specialists. So there was the exercise specialist from the hospital, but also another, fitness person, a kinesiologist, who was able to say, okay, you know what, you can't lift any weights right now, and that's okay. How about you just do the exercise without any weights, And now I look back and I laugh, because I'm doing more than 20 pounds in my arms now, right? And I'm like, oh my God. And we joke about it. I'm like, remember when I started with like 0 pounds and this was my, weightlifting and so forth, right? But again, I had to work extreme amounts of work on my mindset, because there were things that had I not gone through, some sort of a program, or have I not, wake up in the morning and go, okay, yes, I'm going, because, I have help. Of course, that made a significant difference. I had physical help, people to encourage me and so forth. And had I not, gone and showed up every time we did an exercise program and worked on my mindset, every time I noticed something, I was like, oh my God, I was really hard on myself. So my mind was really the only thing that was holding me back from trying to lift, like every time I graduated 2 new pounds, like 2 pounds and then 5 pounds, it was the specialist. She was like, Francesca, why don't you, I want you to do something. She's like, I want you to weigh your backpack. And I'm like, my backpack? She's like, yeah, go to the scale downstairs and weigh your backpack when you go down. And she's like, how many pounds is it? I'm like, oh, it's like over 5 pounds. She's like, see, so there's nothing wrong with lifting 2 pounds, is it? Like, and she's like, your backpack is so heavy. She's like, I can see physically that it's so heavy, but in my mind, it was like, oh my God, I couldn't lift anything, because the pain would flare up. So, it really painted a picture of like, the importance of our mindset. And the reason why I received such a giant gift this morning, again, it's because of my, not being afraid to be vulnerable, reaching out. And so I reached out to somebody and I asked, some very big questions. I said, this is what's happening with my mind. I just like opened up, because it's somebody that I felt, I could fully like open up in relation what was happening in my mind. And he's like, you know, you need to listen to this. And he sent me something and I'd been listening to it. And, you know, in doing so, this, you know, I woke up, I was up since 3 a.m. this morning. And I successfully birthed the structure of a healing modality for children, for youths, you know, I was like, and everybody who knows, my God, my biggest torture in life has been watching the suffering of children, witnessing it around me, you know, and feeling like, oh my God, I can't do anything about it, you know, and then the universe showing me, okay, you can help the parents of these children a little bit, but it still wasn't enough, you know, not when you're witnessing it and it tortured me so much. I was at the point where I was asking to die a few months ago, you know, because I was literally sitting on a bench at the beach and you know, feelings of suicide started to arise, and I was literally asking to die because I was like, if I can't help these children, that's when I gave up my journey. I'm like, you know what? I gave up this journey. I gave up my healing. I shut everything down. I shut my business down. I took my website down. So if you go to francescamurray.com, you won't even find anything right now. I mean, the site is there, but it's not accessible. You know, I shut everything down and I went into a complete, allow myself to surrender into a complete death, mental, emotional death. And I became present with those states of consciousness, that death, as I moved through it. And that was probably the most powerful thing, believe it or not, I could have done. And one of my, you know, reminders today was, no matter what adversity you face. And in fact, you know what, I'm going to read it. I opened it up when I saw this question because this is what I do throughout what I've done throughout my whole life since I was a child. And Napoleon Hill also said the same thing, okay? And he says, analyze temporary defeat, no matter of what nature or cause, and extract from it the seed of an equivalent advantage. And you know, the seed of equivalent advantage for me is definitely my story. Oh my God, like 10 years ago, I was living in a homeless shelter, and I lived in a homeless shelter for 2 years with my daughter. I left everything behind, the house, the car, the whole 9 yards. And I had 2 bags in my hand. The first one, I filled it up. I stuffed it full of toys because I was scared my daughter was going to cry. She was going to miss her dad, the whole 9 yards. And so I put all her, you know, books and her favorite things in it. And, you know, took literally for myself a couple of underwear, some outfit, put as much as I could for her. And I had no idea where I was going, if we were going to even have a space in the shelter, right? And so, you know, and then I, you know, successfully created a program for men and so forth. Anyway, it's not about my story. It's about hopefully inspiring you that even at 60 years old, you still have the ability to do some self-examination. You know, if you don't have a daily meditation practice, I highly, highly, highly recommend, I preach this to everybody, start a daily meditation practice. It is essential. It is the tool that equips you with the ability to develop the right mind. And when you've developed the right mind, like Dr. Joe Dispenza did, to the point he actually healed his physical body, when you've developed the right mind, then your chance of being distracted or, you know, becoming a drifter, for the lack of a better word, reduces significantly, because then you take control of your life, right? You know, these are things we didn't learn in school, of course, but we're learning it here as we evolve from our own journeys and growth, right? So I highly, highly recommend doing some self-examination. I believe even at 60 years old, you know, you have the ability to heal yourself, right? It starts with the mind, and the only way of doing the mind is through meditation and movement, and of course, watching what you eat. And we have this Poonam Creative have created this beautiful group, you know, where we all do, you know, this Anthony Williams or parts, for me, it's just parts of Anthony Williams protocol. Well, if I'm going to make a recipe, you know, that's what I'm going to make, of course, because it's the healthiest, tastiest recipe on the planet, right? So, you know, that's what, and, you know, with support, they share recipes and inspiration. And sometimes even a picture is like, I didn't know what to make today. And, you know, I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to make, you know, lunch because I don't want to cheat. I've put so much effort into this, and somebody shares a picture of like a smoothie or something they made. I'm like, oh, that's it. I'm going to go make that now. So there is no plan whatsoever. We're just flowing in this beautiful, whatever it is that's unfolding in that regards, you know, supporting each other and eating healthy. And again, the relationship, the importance of building that relationship with your physical body and what you eat, and learning to listen to the body and what it's trying to, you know, show you is going to make a significant difference in your journey going forward. So I wish you all the best of blessings, many, many blessings. And yeah, there is no luck. So I'm hesitant to say good luck. So I'm wishing you many, many blessings on your journey. Thank you. That's my
Incredible.
mumbling.
Francesca, grateful. Thank you. And like when you bring up meditation and Dr. Joe Dispenza's healing, it's like he calls it the same as what Byron Katie says. It's called doing the work. We have to do the work.
We have
Like if you have that much injury, right? There's something going on, like Kelly said, something going on at the emotional level,
Yeah.
right? And only when we do the work and remove whatever is going on at the emotional level can we heal. I'm actually reading chapter 5 of Nature of Personal Reality right now, and I'll do it as a tip of the day. How much even Seth says how much we are speaking our body into existence. So even if it's a broken body, we are speaking our body into existence. How we feel, the beliefs and thoughts are what is creating our physical body. And that's what chapter 5 is of Nature of Personal Reality. With that, thank you, Francesca. Let me ask Michelle what she thinks about this.
Thank you.
Grateful.
Echoing, doing the work. I have to say it now that you said it. Yes, taking action, right, is doing the work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Hi,
you, Michelle.
everybody. Yeah, it
Good
was
evening.
interesting because I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it today as I jumped in late, but I'm so glad I did because it always overwhelms me the synchronicities that appear in life, because this topic has been on my mind. In regards to the question, I'm like reading it on the chat, and so I'm not sure why, if she's trying to say she never followed up with medical advice.
No.
Never
Since
did.
her 20s. Since her 20s.
So my
And then
question
she-
is, why, like, I would question, like, dealing with all of that, why would you not seek medical advice? I mean, I don't know. It could be insurance issues, it could be access to healthcare, or it could be ignoring it and wishing it away, right? But not dealing with whatever. So it's hard to kind of, I don't want to assume anything because it's a little vague, you know? But now in your 60s, you've gone through life with all this pain, right? And is it, so I would look at the reasons what, you know, and again, I can't say, you know, if it's because she decided to ignore it, then there's something there that you need to look at. Why are you ignoring whatever is happening in your body? And in terms of past lives, I have no idea. That was a question I kind of had because recently, about a month ago, I was going to a live yoga, like I usually do my yoga on a subscription. I do it at home, but somebody locally was doing yoga classes in this location, which was kind of like a cafe outdoor bar type of thing. And so I had parked and you had to go over this rope thing and cross over it. And I had parked my car and I saw off in the distance, about maybe 1/8 of a mile, there was a bear crossing the road. And there was oncoming traffic, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope this bear doesn't get hurt. So I stayed watching the bear cross the road. So the bear, everybody stopped, the bear crossed the road, and then I see the bear coming at me. Not coming
my
at me, not coming at me. I should not say coming at me, coming into my direction. And I'm like your heart started, I saw it. I mean, I saw it happening. My heart starts to get like, oh my God, we got to be careful. I got to be careful. Like, so right then and there, I had to cross over a rope, like one of these ropes, that's to get access into the place. And I don't know if it was my right foot or my left foot got trapped on the rope, and I fell on the gravel like I had done 4 years ago when I was hiking. And instead of my right finger here that got injured, it was my wrist. And I've been dealing with a wrist injury for about a month. I've been trying to do some exercises here. So it has affected, mostly my yoga practice, because when you do yoga, you do a lot of down dogs, you do a lot of stuff on your hands. And so I don't have the strength as I once did. So it's okay, acceptance, right? Like modify. It's okay that you can't do it. Like, don't get caught up in the ego that I used to be able to do it, right? So it's a constant, and maybe I'll rehabilitate it, or maybe it will always be something. But I've had injuries. Like, I'm very luckily up to now, I've been very healthy, but my injuries have been my left finger, my left index finger, my right index finger, and now my wrist. So I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not kidding you, the past 2 weeks, what is going on that it's my hands? Like from the wrist down, it's like from the wrist to the, and I'm like, I got to look at that. There's got to be something. But all I can tell you is that when I've analyzed the situations of when I've had the accidents, it's in anticipation of something. Like, I'm trying to get somewhere, right? And I lose the present moment. Like when I fell before, it was trying to get to the falls. It was also crossing over a log, and I slipped. And I was trying to get to the falls at the end of the hike, right? The highlight of the hike. And here I'm trying to get to my yoga class after a little bit of fear, right? Of trying to but there's this anticipation of something, right? So I thought that was quite interesting that I logged on and this subject comes up, and I'm like, wow, And then you mentioned the AC. It's just we have to replace her. I'm up here in my upstairs, and I haven't been able to sit up here because we have had AC issues. So today we replaced the AC. They came and replaced me. So I'm listening to this, and I'm like, oh my God. And I know that yesterday was the portal, and I've never known about the Lionsgate portal. I mean, I'd heard about it last year, but this year there's been more information that I've accessed, and I've kind of been more cognizant of it and trying to manifest and really understand it a little bit more. And I've been working with this Mula mantra, and there was so much synchronicity yesterday as well. It just blows my mind that when you're kind of in that alignment, how things, if you're aware, how things start to come together and surrender, the surrender that you were talking about, Poonam, how things start to fall into place, just surgery dates that I was waiting for, that just for Joseph, that he needs to get his cavities filled, and I didn't want to wait till December, and I called the and it fell in. Everything's falling into place. I said okay, and now I have to make up. It just so grateful when you can trust in that, right? Because it's a constant trusting. It's it's like a reminder to come back to trust, and it's an ongoing practice. It's not something that, because sometimes it wanes, it's like the ocean, right? The waves ebb and flow. And for me, there's enough evidence to continue to build on that trust, but I can't say that it's always, it's almost like the dimmer switch, right? Sometimes it's at 80% and sometimes it'll go to 60 or 40. And so absolutely, Kelly, I agree. You need to move the body. The body is so important to move. If I am for 2 days not doing anything, I mean, I'll take a day off every now and again, but I feel it. I mean, I need to go for a hike. I need to go for a vigorous walk. I need to do yoga. I'll need to do weights. I'll spin. I'll do something. to move the body, because you always know that even though if you're going into it not wanting to do it, there is a switch that happens in the middle of your workout or whatever, that the endorphins start to flow and your mood switches. You're just in a different emotional, psychological, energetic space that allows for more opening, you know. And there's many times where you just body is tired and you respect that and you say, okay, I have to take a day off today. But like today I had like a dinner and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go for a long walk. I'm just going to do 20 minutes, but at least I'll get like, you know, my blood flowing or whatever. But it's so important. I mean, I truly, you know, I agree with that, you know, we have to honor the body. That is our temple here in this earth. And we do have to we just can't ignore it, whether it's through exercise or, you know, obviously the meditations. And I mean, I bring a lot of healing when my meditations and I, you know, to that wrist area. And it's not like a one thing, but little by little, there is relief, there is not pain, there is, you know, when I put it in certain positions, but, you know, I believe I'll heal, you know. If I don't, you know, and I do need therapy, then I'll seek it, but I'm going to try to do it on my own for now and just monitor it. I don't know about this past life thing, but it's curious. I mean, I'm curious as to, in terms of like the hands, you know, is there something behind that to investigate for me? So I'm open to that too. Very intriguing. Thank you for the conversation.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your insights. And thank you for that synchronicity about the AC. Kelly said hands can represent strength, power, protection, as well as generosity, hospitality, and stability. That's one way to interpret the symbolism. I think wrist is, even I have something going on with my wrist, Michelle. And the reason why I told that there was a loss of present moment during this person's fall is because when I was moving in March, when I was packing and everything, my hands, like once a year or something, they stiffen up, right? And they stiffened up as I was packing. And very quickly, I snapped my, like it became like this, like it becomes like this, like the bones. And I quickly snapped this hand back into position so that I could continue packing. And I kind of think that in that hurry to continue with what was in my head, that these many boxes, you know, we have a target, right? The 3 boxes need to be packed today. This needs to be done. And you're kind of like, when you're doing the move and you recently moved, so many things, coordination is going on, right? You have to offboard all these companies. You have to onboard all of these companies. When is the closing? When is the signing? When is this thing? Where do I have to drive? Get the movers done. Then I noticed that the day that we scheduled the move, it was going to rain potentially. So I had to move the date for the mover one day ahead. But that day was the day the AT&T guy was going to come put the internet in. So I'm like trying to, but risk is about flexibility, I think. So what are we being inflexible about? Both of us, even I'm being inflexible. I don't know what I'm being inflexible about, but mine has healed like 99.99% in the past 2-3 months. So I'm just letting it go through its motions of healing.
Thank you.
It's not broken. Like, I mean, but I'm in your same position where I can't put, like when I do push-ups, I'm not liking doing push-ups because I cannot put weight on the left hand. So.
And it's hard to do push-ups on your fist because some things you can modify and go on your fist. But when I'm 90 degrees, that's when I feel the pain. So I have the same thing when I do chaturanga, which you have to go down on a push-up. It's hard to go back up to up dog,
Right.
which is where so you modify, right? And it's like a lesson to be patient with your own healing, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, they're all lessons, whatever's coming up for you at that moment. That's what I love about the yoga is like, whatever's coming up for you, like see it for what it is and then surrender to it because it is what it is and just do the best you can. And don't get upset because, oh, I used to be able to do it. And now I'm so upset because I can't do. It's like the monkey mind, right? So, and there's like lessons in everything, you know, it's just, you know,
I
I
agree.
need to have the patience to learn. So but I appreciate, Kelly, your input. I'm gonna look into it because I've been kind of like curious, about it. So, and also you, Poonam, for letting me know. So thank you.
You're most welcome.
Mm.
The other part is, excuse me, I'm not saying in your case about this person that's gone through so much pain. When you were speaking about why is there pain, I thought about this, that both Iyanla Vanzant and I think it may be Byron Katie or Carolyn Mace, they say when we are experiencing pain, it is because we are guilty. Physical pain, when we experience guilt, right, then we want to punish ourselves, and so that punishing ourselves, it turns into physical pain. So that may be the generation. So we have to look at that limiting belief too. Are we holding emotions that are thoughts and emotions that have guilt surrounded with that? Right? I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not good enough wife. I'm not good enough this. Or I didn't do this good enough. I was not a good enough friend. Whatever is the guilt that and guilt is an easy emotion that we generate right here. So I see Kelly has joined us as well. Kelly, I posted the question one more time. If you want to read it, and if you've seen it, if you have additional input, I know Kelly, your partner, already went through quite deeply into this topic. She said quite a lot. She took up for you, Kelly,
Yeah.
today.
All right. Of course.
Took over.
Of course you did.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, if this person's in their 60s, so this sort of sounds kind of like something that my mom went through in her 20s. She fell. 40 years ago, doctors had little to no clue about how to help pain mitigation. And I mean, most of them would just say, here, take, some painkiller and walk it off, kind of thing, if there wasn't any like broken bones or anything like that. So this is one of the traps of the ego, right? One of the things that we want to do is we want to dismiss our own responsibility in the present moment. And this isn't about a past life thing, right? This is probably what
It's what actually what we all
yeah,
said.
we all said, yeah.
She
So-
already said.
All right, Vulcan mind meld working here.
Everyone said it, yeah.
So this is one of the traps in the new age community of being hyper focused or hooked into blaming our past lives for something, when what we have to do is we have to take responsibility in the present moment. And the medical establishment, the allopathic medicine model, is very stupid. It's very good at knitting people up and putting bones back together and stuff like that. But in general, when it comes to pain management, like if you don't have anything sticking out of your body, like a broken bone sticking out of your arm or anything like that, they're just gonna say, oh, here's some painkiller, go walk it off. Most GPs, they're general practitioners for a reason, because they do not understand internal medicine. They do not understand fascia. They do not understand specific organ function. They don't understand nutrition. They have no education in nutrition, so they can't actually help you in healing your body properly. They can tell you what's wrong with you because that's how they're trained. And going back to the initial moment, the person might want to look at whatever story distracted them and falling on ice. I mean, gosh, everybody does that. I mean, the number of times I did that as a kid here in Canada, playing shinny on a pond or on a ditch somewhere with a tennis ball. Falling on ice is a very normal thing. And it quite often has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that you're on ice. So to try and dismiss the cause, and again, sometimes it's that simple. And our mind likes to complicate things and likes to look for answers outside of ourselves. And this is one of the reasons why having a discipline of self-awareness is so important, because it helps when you're on ice and paying attention to not slipping. And, it's really unfortunate that this person had such an awful experience falling and hurting themselves. And they have my complete sympathy, because obviously the medical establishment failed them utterly in terms of helping them recover and rehabilitate. And this is sort of one of the things, unless, they can prescribe something for it, they usually won't take an interest. Unless there's blood and broken bones and, gore everywhere, they won't really sort of think it's something serious. My mom fell on the ice in Vancouver years and years and years ago out west, and fractured 2 of her vertebrae. And the doctor that she went and saw basically gave her painkillers. It's like, walk it off, let them fuse, and deal with it. And no rehabilitation, no nothing. So my mom has 2 fused vertebrae in her lower back because of this, right? And I'm just like, so wanting to grasp at something outside of ourselves is very much what the ego and the shadow does. I mean, especially with pain management. If this person is listening or watching this, honestly, standing stake qigong, Zhamzhuang qigong, because it works with the joints and it works with the fascia directly, would probably be one of the best things for her. And it's because you allow the body to relax, standing stake will also dissolve scar tissue around the areas that are painful. Michelle, is this you that asked the question? No, but
No, I'm
just awesome.
responding
All
to
right.
her.
I'm just like
When she was speaking,
multitasking here.
she was
Multitasking.
talking and then I was typing an answer to her.
So yeah, the mind likes to take us away from being in the present moment, like the ego, right? Likes to look, especially when our so-called persons of authority, our medical professionals, don't have any answers, don't give us any answers, and can't and don't support us the way that's actually productive for our health to be healthy. So we like to go and look, especially pain management. I mean, I've dealt with this with both my mom and dad in both of their car accidents. And it's amazing how, the mind, I mean, especially, my dad first, this is his first car accident that he's had, and the amount of pain that he's had to deal with. He's never had to deal with anything like this. So, I've coached him and helped him understand what his mind does when he's in pain. And that it's okay to understand this, that is just, at first he was very, this is a very classic Mennonite, stoic, German, reserved, don't show any emotions kind of person. I kind of like worn my dad down with my stubbornness of just like poking at him going, Dad, it's okay to be in pain. It's okay to not be okay about being in pain. And it's okay to want to figure out how to deal with it and how to cope with it. Of course, my dad has a high pain threshold, so he sort of, won't let on that he's actually in pain until he's really in pain. And I'll usually pick up on that because he starts to get grumpy and starts being judgmental about things. So, it's the pattern. It's getting better. But yeah, again, pain management is a rough deal. And it isn't always about past lives. I mean, even if it is about something in your past life, that moment, like everything from your past lives are here in this life. Everything that you have to deal with, everything gets carried forward into this present moment. So you have to be present with whatever it was that distracted yourself, that caused, that created, because there's always co-creation, right? Sometimes we create events with our own ego to fill a pattern of victim consciousness or poverty consciousness or self-denial or drama addiction or all of those things.
And a lot of times doctors don't, if they're, like you said, if there's not bleeding or you're not dying or something, they're like, well, this is what's happening.
Yep.
And they don't give you other advice to go to a physio or chiropractor. So that's why you have to take charge of your own health.
Yep.
And ask yourself, all right, what can I do? What can I do? Who can I consult with? And the thing is, if you don't like your first physiotherapist, for example, find another one. Like, you don't have to be loyal to one person. If you find for a time that a chiropractor
right.
works for a while and then it kind of is not working, just you can go find another chiropractor or another practitioner of some other kind. But just always for yourself, you know, figure out what you need at any given time.
Yep.
And Kelly's trying to type the name of something for Francesca. There we go.
The Qigong, Francesca said, what is the name of the Qigong?
There we go.
Anxiong Qigong.
Yep.
Perfect.
It's often referred to as standing stake because it's like you stand still like a wooden stake planted in the ground. And it's one of the most potent and powerful forms of Qigong because it will dissolve all the tension. It will rebalance and rewire your nervous system. It'll generate the golden elixir that is done in Taoist internal alchemy and Buddhist internal alchemy. And it's also what all the Shaolin healing methods that I have studied is actually based on. It's all standing stake, which kind of blew my mind when I first started learning it years ago, but yep.
Okay.
Thank
Luis?
you. Thank you so much. Thank you for explaining it too. Thank you.
Luis said yoga is great because it's meditative. I think Michelle and Luis do a lot of yoga. I'm not a yoga person, so
Whatever.
But there's many kinds, Poonam.
mhm. I think I need to take it up since you'll discuss it so much. Maybe I'll get you a subscription. I don't think I heard what you said, Michelle. You were saying something, Michelle? I'm not on mute. Kelly, you were going to say something else? That's it? Such a short answer? Kelly went for 17 minutes this evening. So
I didn't know I was
Well,
being
if you
timed.
guys have already covered everything,
Oh,
uh,
sorry. There.
I figure I didn't really need to inundate people with more detailed information.
perfect. We loved your Lionsgate portal meditation. I let Kelly know as well. It was like incredible. I didn't listen to the whole, like I just listened to a portion of April's, that I couldn't, but I listened to the two of you. So grateful.
I actually, if it's okay, quick question to Kelly. Why don't you listen to past lives to find out about the present injury? Wouldn't that help?
I think we're enough.
That's not exactly what I said.
No.
I always listen to past life points of reference. Absolutely. Past lives are always really good clues to what you're dealing with in the present, which is why they're important to understand, but it's really important to not get lost in them. That's sort of more where I was going with that. So
Thank you.
this
I
is really,
misunderstood. Mhm.
oh, all good. No worries.
Go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
So I mean, I have a lot of past life stuff that is constantly reminding and coming up for me in my present life. And because I've always had a connection to my past lives, I have my own personal take on why they're important, but also why they're not as important as some people make them out to be. Your ego and your shadow can trap you in being enamored and enthralled with the information. And that's something that I experienced as a kid, because I could like sit and stare and like run movies from past lives through my head, for hours and hours at a time and get completely lost daydreaming, which is sometimes really great because school was boring.
But now if something comes up for you from past life, what do you do with that? in the present moment?
I work at connecting the dots. I mean, usually I'll have a movie from a past life come up over and over again now in my present life. If there's something similar or parallel or that old wound, I mean, the number of battles I've been in is a little ridiculous. So sometimes I'll have physical aches and pains where the shock, right? Oftentimes, one of the things that our ego and our shadow like to do is use the shock and the pain of a past life to hijack us and to get us into a negative state of mind when it's just information. Right? Everything is just information to understand your present moment. That's why past lives are important, because they will reflect. The past is always brought into the future. So if you have a movie on images that you don't recognize that are coming up over and over and over again, it's the feeling, the physical sensations, the information, if any, that comes up and that gets connected with those images in movies, that is important. That is what your higher self is trying to tell you about your present circumstances.
So shining the light of consciousness on that and seeing it for what it is will automatically dissolve it, or the physical pain will still last, so you need to work on it without that emotional at this point, you know, like
all of the above. It's never one way or another. There's always a mix, and my experience is that it has to do with how much of a core program or core element of your life that theme or that wound or that information or that pattern is. And that's why it's important to understand past lives and not get caught in them, and to observe them as well and all that information, because they'll be reflecting. Like if it's a substantial core program or part of your personality, it can sometimes take numerous cycling through it in different angles of observation, through working through it, to get deeper into the actual origin point of the wound that your higher self is trying to tell you about.
Yeah, because sometimes people use them, or they want to know about a past life, because then it deflects responsibility from the present.
Yep.
So so you don't necessarily need to go searching for the past life answer.
Yep.
They will come to you if it's necessary.
Yep.
You need to relax into that, but also just don't deflect responsibility from
Yep.
what's happening in the present moment.
but then the action is obviously always taken now with that information.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Thank you. There you go, Poonam. I made Kelly speak more.
Always happy to share.
Thank you.
I have a question for Kelly, and it could be, maybe we can pick this up on another time, but it just came to me as we're talking about past lives and thinking about generations in my husband's family or my family. So is it possible to know if if your son is, or daughter, whatever, is a reincarnated from a past relative, a relative that passed away? It's possible to know that?
Yep. I have a couple of cousins that my mom swears are reincarnations of one of her grandfathers and other great uncles from years ago in her family.
How would you find that out? Like psychic?
Well, yeah, you can go to a psychic medium. Absolutely. I mean, we all know one. I mean, April is
April,
great.
you can ask April.
April's
Would
amazing.
be, yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I just recently thought, like, wait a minute, maybe this is
Mhm.
some connecting dots, right? Like that I never thought about before, that has been come to kind of like, well, maybe Joseph is like, my son is reincarnated from so and so, but
Yeah, one of my cousins, one of my first cousins, reminds, like, both my grandma before she passed and my mom actually had this conversation where one of my male cousins was exhibiting drawing skills and natural inclinations for design and architecture that he hadn't been shown. And some of the things that he did when he drew stuff casually that happened to be almost exact replicas of something that one of my great uncles did in England as a graphic designer, like
Oh.
carbon copies of the images that he did for, back when everything had to be hand drawn. This is like something that he did, and my cousin basically drew this as a kid, and both my grandma and my mom were like, whoa, okay. And he looks like he's the same height, he wears glasses too, he looks like this great uncle of my mom's, right? And it's just like, all right then, okay, yeah, no, that's a good, and yeah, that's, maybe. And some of his own personal mannerisms that aren't related to his parents, and then some of his personal behaviors are actually things that my grandma remembers her uncle doing all the time, the way he so points of reference, that strong feeling. When it happens too many times to be discounted, there's a pattern. So that's usually, reflective of that pattern where you go, okay, this kind of makes sense. But yeah, we'll go to a medium.
And like April says, and what Carolyn May says, your soul family and soul group is always the same. So it's either like in Jane Roberts's case, Jane Roberts was Robert F. Budd's son, but his wife in this lifetime.
Yep.
Right in 1400 or something. Jane Roberts in Norway or somewhere in Europe. Dutch, they were Dutch or Norwegian or something, and she was his son. So it's always his, and then it doesn't have to be female as well, right? It could be a male. In the previous lifetime, they could be a female. So
yeah, I remember being a woman. I miss my hair sometimes. It's like weird. I'll have these moments where I'll be like, oh yeah, like when I'm half awake or whatever.
where's this long hair?
Yeah, literally, I'm going. Not okay. I'm in this lifetime now. Okay, all right. It's like,
Wearing a different suit this time.
I have a quick question for Kelly, real quick, in 2 minutes. Can you give one example of how your past life shows up in your present? Like a quick, small, simple example, so that people have, if you remember.
as a martial artist, I've been in Tibet, I've been in China,
Okay.
and also as a Viking. Like some of my interests growing up as a kid.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it runs through your lifetimes. Perfect.
Yep.
Beautiful example. This was incredibly amazing. Grateful, eternally grateful to all of you for showing up. Thank you so much. Many blessings. Thank you for
Wonderful to see everybody.
Good night, everyone.
choosing your divinity over your humanity. Much love, many blessings. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.